All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings all. It is a big show on Tuesdays, and today will be no exception. Yes. Kim is here just to give you a sense of who's on stage today, and, of course, working the back. Reluctantly taking the stage occasionally is Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
And you forgot it was me today.
I did. I thought it was Wednesday. I think I may have sent Albert something to put Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Albert days. So, too bad. I think all my prep was with the wrong guy.
Whoopsies.
Anyway,
we'll see how this show goes.
What's that, Kim?
I say we'll see how this show goes.
Yeah. The great news is that in the second hour, David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner. We've got a lot to talk about with him. Trump, money. Also, he just did a great column sort of x-raying as we have the South Carolina results. And if you really look at the road ahead for Trump, his big hope, or he really has to look toward the Electoral College to save his butt, I think. So the other thing that's happening, of course, is the favorite pastime of Democrats and libs, and that is to snuff out their own. There's nothing that libs like more than applying the purity test to their own. Yeah.
Who do we get rid of today?
Right. Are you for Medicare for all? Okay, good. Are you anti-war? Okay, you good. Are you a trans activist? Okay, solid. Are you, and then you find whatever it is. You're 80. No, you're out. The drumbeat to remove Biden is extraordinary to me. It really is. It's louder from the Democrats than it is, and from the left, to be fair, independents who are also sort of identifying more with the Democrats maybe than they would with the GOP. It's remarkable to me. Just more and more people coming forward. And, I get it. You can make an articulate and convincing argument for the fact that a guy who's 81, is that what Biden is too old to be president. But I think you can also make a pretty compelling argument for the fact that this 81-year-old has done a fairly good job of administering a country that was really in the throes of COVID, had some serious administrative challenges, who's just coming off of a coup attempt. And he's put together a team that appears competent. Across the aisle, you have a party that is bent on recrimination and putting together all of these impeachment proceedings based on specious evidence at best, concocted evidence at worst. And so you end up with, I think, kind of a no contest. But anyway, it's fascinating to me to hear the drumbeat get louder and louder and louder. I have news of the economy that's actually good. I have bowling with Biden. I have chunk of Trump. Just looking ahead, I have news of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What has she done this time?
Well, it's interesting. You may actually appreciate this. There's a part of me that wants to start with that. I have to make sure that I put it here and not, I'm just looking at my extensive rundown. Oh, my gosh. Please speak among yourselves. We do have a date for our meet and greet now, which is kind of exciting.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Didn't we decide on a meet and greet date, Kim?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
That's the kind of enthusiasm that I'm greeted with everywhere I go.
I don't know. I didn't know. You surprised me by asking about it.
Yeah.
Lord.
I believe it's the 14th is what I had seen.
Let's see.
The text I had was said 14th.
Yeah.
Thursday the 14th.
Right.
Thanks, Tony.
So the 14th will be a meet and greet, and we will do a virtual meet and greet at, I believe, 6:30 p.m.
Yes, Thursday, March 14th at 6:30 p.m.
Right.
Finally
now,
got the text.
The idea is that most people are in California who want to be part of the meet and greet. We have fun on the meet and greets. We have guests on the meet and greet, that kind of thing. But we also have a couple of East Coasters, so we kind of do it at a time when it's not too late. Also, you could do the meet and greet and still go out if that's your jam, 6:30. We go to, what do we do, 2 hours? How long did we do it? Like an hour and a half?
We've done different times. One of them was 45 minutes, and we thought that was too short.
That was too short. Well, that was supposed to be 45 minutes, but then it ended up being an hour 15.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was scheduled for 45.
So then we bumped it up. I think we did an hour and a half the following time. And that was okay.
Yeah.
But if we were talking about having games or some type of game.
Yeah, so here's what the problem is, and this is the beauty of the show, that we just live out loud like this. The problem with the games is I need to take the number of people down. I can't do 23 people on game night. It's just too big a crowd. So I think we have to either, and we could do 10 people for a game night, or you do the normal larger group. Usually we do 20, and we do that, but minus a game night. So we have to have other activities.
Well, if it was trivia or bingo, you could probably do a bigger group. Whatever you think, Mark Thompson. Whatever you think.
There's some multiplayer games right now with, like, you can play via your cell phone that can do like 50 to 100. So we could maybe incorporate those or something if you want.
This I'm so glad we're doing this. This will give you a sense of the meetings we don't have.
On-air staff meeting.
Meet, so we just meet and talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, just being honest as I always am, I have no effing idea what Tony's talking about. They're multiplayer games, or you can put on your cell phone. Like what everybody downloads an app, Tony, and then
we would just go to a browser. You would go to a browser address and you just bring this little passcode. If you ever look up, it's called Jackbox Games. They have some really fun ones, like they have like truth, like liar, like yes or no kind of questions, stuff like that. I'm just saying stuff to do.
That we put Tony in charge of game.
As I always say, well, great. If you want to get it organized.
And you can even make it like certain people playing the game, but then everyone else can be like in the chat and vote on it and stuff like that. If it's just like me, you, Kim, and like Albert or something like that, then they can all vote in on it, stuff like that. Stuff like that you can do. There's stuff out there that exists.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do that. And then so the number of people involved will be an open thing. We haven't even opened it yet, but it will be the 14th. So we will have to get that organized as well. We'll have to, get payment and figure out, how much, because it's a fundraising thing as well as being a fun night. So we have to figure that out also. I'd love to do a game night. I mean, you know me, I'm way up for that. So
exactly.
We'll work something out. The meet and greet, I will get to a live meet and greet question in a moment. This comes, though, right now. This is only 10 minutes old.
Oh.
Yeah. In our Gmail account.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
It is the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Hey, all. Today is Tuesday. I'm listening to Monday's show. It's the 6th consecutive one without closed captions. What's going on? Linda and Rob. I ask you, Tony, what's going on?
That's a YouTube thing. We're not really in charge of that, so it's supposed to generate. That's YouTube. So let me check right now. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Tony says it's a YouTube thing, as you just heard. I also want to welcome, this just happened minutes ago. Craig joined us on Patreon. Patreon, big shout out, is a great way to support us on an ongoing basis. You can join our Patreon community. I also have other Patreon members like Michaela, who joined as well.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Michaela. I love it. Thank you.
Welcome,
Michaela.
aboard.
The world of Patreon needs you, and we need your support. And it really is a great way to keep us on the air. So thank you very, very much. In fact, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Now, there's a question about a live meet and greet, an audience show. This comes from a guy you might remember. This is several
I've received a lot of positive letters.
years ago. We did a meet and greet live radio show at the KGO studios. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy dressed as Elvis. I don't know if you were there. It was still Brett on the show at that point, Kim.
I don't recall.
But he was there, I think, for both Armstrong and Getty, who were on before me, and then me.
Barf.
And
Did I say that out loud? Yeah.
October of 22, he says, is when it was. And then he talked about turning on KGO and thinking that it was some problem with his iPhone that he couldn't pick up KGO anymore. When he found out about the end of KGO, he was downcast, but is glad that he's found us here. I now have to say that we are... I now have to say, when are you going to have a show in the city with an audience like you had?
Oh.
Yeah. And he says the city, he's talking about San Francisco, the station that birthed this show is in San Francisco, everyone, who's kind of newer. And then he talks about Lisa Marie and his residency in Vegas. But he says, it's the hound dog waiting for your response, Mark.
He's really into the whole Elvis thing.
He's really committed to character, and I respect that. You know what I mean? I really do. Here is the problem with a live event. And then I really do want to move on to the news. The Red Jack Saloon, we could do it there. We could just sort of, close it off and have a private event there in the city. I'd love to do that. The problem is everybody getting there, I think, and the problem is, honestly, our audience is all over the place. I just don't know that if there's the last thing you want is to be there and you've got 8 people there and everybody's gone to a lot of trouble because, I got to get Tony there. I got to get, I've just got to, there's a lot of support structure to it. It's not just, hey, we closed the bar. And I think what you're talking about and what he's talking about doing is a live show, which I'd love to do. I'd love to do a live show. I just think we're still maybe a year away from that, to be honest. I just don't know that it's there yet for us. But anyway, I super appreciate that you'd suggest it. I'd love to hang out. I'd also like to do a live show. I think it would be a lot of fun. But Tony and I have discussed it. There's a lot that goes into it. And so for that reason, I think it just may not be practical at the moment. But next best thing to a live show is all of our San Francisco luminaries who come through. We've got a few of them on here, and Rothman tomorrow. And today, the great David Cay Johnston, as I mentioned. So let me get into some news.
The Mark Thompson Show.
About the economy, Biden's election odds might be improving. Mostly because inflation has dropped from a peak of 9% in June of 2022 to just 3.1% now. Most economists think it's going to continue to trend lower. I mean, Biden's approval ratings haven't trended up, but even as the economy looks to be improved. But they're suggesting in this most recent piece that kind of recalculates all of the ways in which the economy is growing and improving, that voters are feeling better about the economy. And Moody's Analytics, for example, the presidential election model there slightly favors Biden. A more favorable economic outlook, they say, in this Moody's account, has raised the share of the popular vote that Biden is projected to win. Again, as we've labored to say, popular vote is one thing. Sadly, it doesn't really reflect whether or not Biden will be the next president.
So it all comes down to the economy, huh?
Well, they always say, it's the economy, stupid, right?
Yeah.
That's the line. The economy is what I think a lot comes down to. It's a question of what you're able to sell to the American public as the thing that matters the most. But the thing that you don't really have to sell is the economy. because everybody experiences the economy in one way or another. So 401ks are at record highs because of the, this economy that has led to a soaring stock market. But at the same time, there was an inflationary spiral that everybody was dealing with, and I still think people are living with the after effects. That said, as noted, inflation is down, and so even if it's a lagging indicator, it will likely be felt, in the pocketbook. It's democracy, stupid, says Walter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. It's like the economy is important and it matters to our everyday lives, and I get that. Trust me, I felt the pain at the grocery store and the gas pump. But, I mean, at some point, do we not care about democracy and the Constitution and what makes America America? I mean, when does that become the priority?
Never. Those things that never really will cut with most of the population. It raises the Moody's forecast for Biden's vote in 5 key swing states by 0.18 of a percentage point, they say. Now, that's small, but the margin of victory in those states, I'll remind you, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada, could be that narrow, that fraction of a point. So in the Moody's model, Georgia has moved from a toss-up to leaning to Biden. So the current forecast is for a Biden electoral count victory of 308 to 230. Again, this is according to the Moody's calculations. The latest Quinnipiac poll shows Biden beating former President Trump, and that's a 49 to 45% victory. A recent Axios poll found that Biden was beating Trump there among younger voters, 52% to 48%.
Those numbers should be, the margin should be, in my mind, should be way different. It should be like, 90 to 20. I mean, come on. 90 to 10. I don't know.
Because of the choice, you mean?
And just because of the choice, because of what we're looking at. Imagine women's reproductive rights, democracy on the line. Honestly,
I just don't think you can huff and puff, but you can't blow that house in. Democracy doesn't. Democracy a philosophy, it's a concept. I can even argue that this democracy is already ruined. The people's voice is not represented in any number of ways. The Electoral College is a front and center way. But what you're talking about is...
We stand at the football game and we put our hand over our heart and we sing the national anthem. And we
that's one of the things I wish we could do away with. You know where they do that? They do that in Korea. They sing the national anthem and put their hands over their heart all the time.
Do we not believe in America? We were
paper patriotism.
Trained to believe in America.
Right, but the reality of that patriotism is that it lands differently for everybody, right? I just don't. I take your point. Of course, you're right. Given the choice, you certainly don't want to usher in this guy who's an authoritarian in waiting, nor do you want to usher in this party that has worked so hard to take away the rights of women over their own bodies. Sadly, the real thing that people are evaluating is the economy that will, I think, affect a lot of people one way or the other. I say this because in my own family, I have people saying, I'm a Trump voter. Republicans are better with the economy. It's just not true. Just not true. Go back and look into history. But that's the message that's been able to land. They don't talk about democracy. They don't talk, it's not, these philosophical underpinnings of what you're talking about just don't come up. So, polling, what's the thing that matters to you the most? One of the big things that matters now in polling, I mean, according to, I just saw something today. Maybe you can put it in there, Tony or Kim. It's the border. They've been able to sell the border as the big issue. I don't know that the border is the big issue. It's a big issue, but border crisis, you can handle the border crisis. It should be handled. It's a priority issue, but is it the big issue? So everybody moves into the polling place with a different sense of what the big issue is. And honestly, You don't have to be the big issue voter. You don't have to be a one issue voter. You may be. It may be women's reproductive rights. Boom, game over, full stop. I don't care after that. Meaning I know that whoever is for protecting women's reproductive rights will fall into line on enough other stuff that I don't need to worry about it. It's the same way if you have a good environmental record. I don't need to see the rest of it. I know that they are for women's reproductive rights and other stuff just because I know if they care about a climate crisis and they care about toxic dumping and regulations on corporate polluters, I know they'll fall into place on everything else.
Yeah.
So these are ongoing questions as to what should, lead the parade of concern. But I think the economy is a huge, huge deal. And these small gains and small improvement in Biden's approval ratings should give those who want to keep out the big bad wolf a little bit of hope. Biden's standing with young voters isn't as solid as he would like. In 2020, Biden won young voters by a margin of 20 percentage points. Is that a Rasmussen poll? These are all the poll. This is Rasmussen, Harris.
Oh, wow.
Nice job, Tony. And so what you're seeing, I haven't seen this before. Those are, what is this, Tony?
It just said it's his approval rate versus his disapproval rating. And
Okay,
then it was
cool.
showing here's another aggregate of between how he compares to all other past presidents.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So if you go back and look at, go down to how he compares to other presidents. That's interesting.
Okay.
Go back to how he compared to Trump, their upper left.
Yeah.
So you see from day one to now.
There's approval, disapproval, and then net approval. I just went with net.
So his approval and disapproval are pretty tight with Trump, actually, aren't they? I mean, then you see
That's what 9/11 happened. Yeah.
Exactly. 9/11, George
Yeah, you
Bush
could
had
just see
all
the
that
bump right there. It's
popularity,
like,
right? I mean, the country
Sorry.
was attacked. So, but that's fascinating and really interesting. And I will say one other thing. The days of really great approval ratings are pretty well gone. If you look at the way in which the parties have dug in so intensely, you're just not going to find the kind of approval ratings that you had with, look at Nixon even. I mean, it was just, it's crazy. I just don't think you're going to see approval ratings north of 50 too much. Gerald Ford had it at the beginning of his administration from the looks of it. Anyway, this is interesting. I hadn't expected
I love how
that.
the lines start up and then slowly go down. It's like we're never happy in the end, right? You can never do anything right by us.
Look at George Bush's numbers at the end, but then look at Biden's. I mean, Biden is not doing a whole lot better. So, but again, that's relative to other presidents. As I say, as new administrations come in, the country's zeitgeist changes, the culture of politics changes, which is what I'm talking about. I think it's fair to expect that you're not going to see those high approval ratings. But as I was saying, with young people, his margin is just 4 points. And a lot of that could be because of Biden's seeming support for Israel. But again, these elections exist with a choice. If you're feeling as though there is not enough attention paid to the plight of Palestinians or to the nuances of the Middle East, I'd suggest there's no nuance in a GOP administration. There just isn't. So in the next few days, I'm hoping for Thursday, actually, I want to get Richard Green, the civics dean, on to talk about third-party candidates and how third-party candidates are essentially, because of our system, in this instance, the RFK Juniors, the Cornel Wests, Jill Stein, they will siphon off votes from Joe Biden and propel Trump to the presidency. It's a fascinating argument. I was talking to him about it, and I said, oh, my God, I need you to share that on our show. So I initiated that, and I think we're going to try to get him in on Thursday, I hope. Anyway, thank you for that. That's a little word about the good news is if you're a Biden fan, it looks like he is rallying a bit and the economy is rallying a bit. And for those reasons, things are turning around in Joe Biden land a little bit.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You know the Mike Lindell dude who essentially he had to sue for it, but given the award of $5 million, Mike Lindell was talking smack, which is what the right does, what Trump does, was talking smack about all this evidence of election interference and, oh my God, wait till you see it. I have so much of it. And he said if any person could prove this evidence wrong, it was the Prove Mike Wrong Challenge. It was part of a huge event in South Dakota. He offered $5 million to them. So this dude who specializes in software security and analysis, he was skeptical right away. And Lindell had promised essentially records of internet activity that showed votes being altered from Trump to Biden. But there was no real evidence of it. He kept talking about it, but there was no data to reflect that, according to this guy who was there to accept essentially Lindell's challenge. He said there was nothing at all. It was gibberish. At one point, I called my wife and I said, start thinking about what you want to do with $5 million. He filed a report of his findings. Lindell rejected his findings, but then they went to arbitration.
Wow.
And he got the $5 million.
You know, what is it? Don't cash something with your mouth. The bank can't.
Don't write a
cash
check with your mouth. What is it?
Thank you.
Something like that.
Yeah.
What is it? Don't write a. Yeah.
I don't know how it goes.
Somebody in the chat will know.
What a big talker. You don't
Yeah.
slap out a challenge like that and not put your money where your mouth is, really. Yeah, pay up, pal. Pay up.
Lindell got into a back and forth with this guy, but then kind of iced him, ghosted him, okay? And so this guy, Zeidman is his last name, registered his report with the U.S. Copyright Office, put it on a flash drive, and submitted it to Lindell's team. And then he just left town. Don't write a check with your mouth that the bank can't cash. Is that what it is, Tom? All right.
I've heard it other ways, but pretty much, yeah.
What other ways have you heard it?
I was saying don't write checks to your ass, with your mouth that your ass can't cash.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's. Anyway, so Lindell, as I say, was kind of ghosting him. And this guy filed with lawyers, filed an arbitration lawsuit saying, hey, this is a legitimate offer. I produced legitimate evidence. We're going to legitimate arbitration.
There you go.
And they did. A 3-person American Arbitration Association panel. They ruled unanimously in Zeidman's favor against Mike Lindell. They ordered Lindell to pay the $5 million.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. And even though Lindell was talking about it appealing, the next stage of the process, he'll face the same thing, right? So it looks as though they are trying to get this money from Lindell. The problem is that he owes so much other money and that he faces a $1.3 billion defamation suit by Dominion for the same claims that the company rigged the 2020 election. So, but this guy is confident that he will be paid the $5 million. The arbitration is over, and it may happen.
I mean,
very,
if
very
Lindell
cool.
has $5 million, is he still even making pillows?
Right, that's the point. Well, he's making the pillows, I think, but the fulfillment company may not be doing business with him anymore, and I think one of his payment companies is also not doing business with him anymore. So he has some issues in the money department, as many of those who pursued that big lie do and did. There is a gag order that's been put into place, or they're trying to put it in place preemptively on Donald Trump. We'll talk about that with David Cay Johnston in the half hour that will start to kick off our second hour. There's a lot, actually, with David. I'll get into more of that. Kim,
Yes.
News standing by. I'll ask everybody. I know we've had kind of digressions, and we've done a little business here on the show, talking about our live meet and greet and other stuff. But I know I'm looking at the Lindell comments. Yeah, he's a problem child, let's face it. But smash the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
Give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing. We appreciate it. So, Kim, it is David Cay Johnston to lead off the second hour. We have Jefferson Graham to talk tech later this half hour. Kim's news, and we get into all of that. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Let's start in Michigan. That's kind of a pretty picture of Michigan, right? Kind of a nice state. Well, that's where voters will be heading to the polls for Michigan's presidential primary today. On the Republican side, former President Trump is looking to continue his sweep over Nikki Haley in the race to locking up the GOP nomination. Though if it continues like South Carolina, maybe there's cracks in that, as he's not necessarily winning by the margin needed. On the Democratic side, President Biden is facing opposition from Arab American activists pushing for an uncommitted ballot to protest his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. The polls close at 9 p.m. Eastern. President Biden, meanwhile, says Gaza ceasefire could start before next week, and so hope is building for this temporary ceasefire. Speaking to reporters yesterday, President Biden said National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan tells him it's close, but it's not done yet. Advisor Jake Sullivan tells him that he's added that his hope is by next Monday that there will be a ceasefire. So Sullivan said on Sunday that he was hopeful an agreement would take place in the next few days. This is all a deal meetings between Israel, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar. They all met in Paris recently to put this together. So we'll see how it ends up. In other news, severe storms are likely in the Midwest today. Chicago, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Louisville, and St. Louis among the cities that could be impacted. The storms could bring isolated tornado threats, damaging winds, and large hail. A special prosecutor being brought in for a murder case at the University of Georgia. Laken Riley was found dead last week on the school's campus after she didn't return from a run. She died of blunt force trauma to the head, and immigrant Jose Ibarra was arrested in connection with her death. Athens Clark County District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez says she will bring in a top trial attorney and will not be trying this case herself. Macy's is closing its flagship store fronting San Francisco's Union Square. Big news for San Francisco.
I thought they were closed.
No, not the flagship store.
Oh, okay, not the flagship store. Okay.
No, as a matter of fact, this is, in San Francisco, it's kind of a storied location where they have the pets for adoption in the window every Christmas. All kinds of things going on at Macy's and Union Square.
No, you're right. It was like a cornerstone retail business.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of, you go to the city to go shopping, you go to Macy's and Union Square. Well, the earliest it could close would be 2025. The company said it plans to close 150 of its weakest namesake stores nationwide through 2026. They're trying to focus on modernizing the shopping experience at about 350 stores that they will continue to operate. So Macy's Union Square looks like it'll be closing down. Apple is canceling its electric car project. That, according to Bloomberg, which cited people with the knowledge of this matter. The outlet reporting the decision to end the project was disclosed internally today to almost 2,000 employees who were working on that project. Now, Apple had been working on the electric car project for a decade. Bloomberg says executives told project workers many of them will be moved to the company's artificial intelligence division instead. Freddie Mercury's London home on sale for $38 million. The Queen frontman lived at Garden Lodge for more than a decade. It has a Japanese sitting room, a double height drawing room, music center, bar, library. Mercury bought that property in 1980 right on the spot, according to Knight Frank, the British real estate company now handling the sale.
Wow.
We're losing
Yes.
Sly Stallone from California. Yeah.
Where's he going, Texas?
No, even worse. Looks like maybe Florida.
Oh, my God. Although he has a big compound down there, I think, on the water.
Yeah, they've announced they have they call the Family Stallone a reality show.
Oh, right.
And on the Family Stallone, they announced that they're leaving California for Florida. They all were sitting around the dinner table on the show, and he and his wife, Jennifer, sat their adult daughters down to break the news. They said, we're selling this house in California. We already have a place in Florida. It is a done deal. And it's not because of crime or taxes or liberal politics. It's just because his wife says she raised all of the daughters there in California, and for them not to be at home anymore, now they're empty nesters. She said, I need a big change. And that Sylvester Stallone went along with it, and they need a new start. So that's what they're doing, leaving California.
One second, though. Aren't they divorced, or weren't they getting a divorce?
They were getting divorced. It was a very tumultuous relationship, but they managed to put it back together, Mark.
Oh, my gosh. That's so sweet. Mm-hmm. I love it when they get back together over a reality show.
That's right. And now they're moving to Florida. That's great for a relationship, Florida. Yeah.
And this is their new hoax.
It may be, I don't know. It may be a pretty one-dimensional relationship that way. Meaning but look, whatever it takes, sometimes people stay together for the kids. Some people stay together for the reality show. Good for them. That's right.
How very California. Well, now very Florida. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is amazing coffee. It is amazing tea, and it's a 10% discount for you. This is CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is where you can go peruse the teas. I still have to buy that, the date sugar crystal tea that you're talking about. But
Courtney loves it. I love it.
I've got more Moroccan mint in the cup today.
Yes, of course you do.
Yes, I do.
I love it.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. At checkout, enter Mark T to get your 10% off, and do enjoy the Coachella Valley coffee. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Loving it, loving you for being here. It is a big Tuesday show. I'm just looking at this show. Wow, we have a lot to talk about with David Cay Johnston, who is minutes away. We have a lot to talk about with this guy who sits in our green room with a sense of a tech future that is promising, but also problematic. Nothing without problems, Kim. I mean, you can have the potential, but you have to be aware of the realities. So without any further delay, although I am anxious to delay further because I do like delaying, and delaying further is one of my favorite things to do. But now I've run out of things to say except for Jefferson Graham, everyone.
Hello, Mark. How you doing?
I'm well. Nice to see you.
Same
You're going
here.
to help with the lighting in the studio soon. We're going to get you up to the studio, and
you just named the day, and I will be
your
there
team
so fast. Yes,
Tony and I were talking about it before we went on, right? Tony, you want to come up on Sunday, Tony? That's what.
Thanks, Tony.
I don't know if Jeff's available on Sunday.
I can come on Sunday.
All right, so maybe we do Sunday. Okay. Is Jeff's mic at an acceptable level for you, Tony? Yeah. Okay. Well, Tony's.
Do you need
Tony,
me closer?
You
Thanks, Tony.
That's great.
I could always speak louder.
You could do that, or just move the mic maybe a little bit closer. But you're the tech wizard, not me.
Okay.
So, what do you have for us today, oh great wizard?
Well, first of all, following up on what Kim just said, I just want to let you know Apple never officially confirmed that they were doing a car project. Okay. And whenever they were asked about it, they'd say, we don't make announcements about future products. So there was all sorts of speculation about, I mean, clearly they were doing something, but was it an Apple car? Was it entertainment in the car? What exactly was it? Was it an iCar? I mean, was it a all-electric car? Was it a self-driving car? What was it? I mean, the idea that Apple could do this really cool car that nobody's ever done before is really exciting. But I think you lose a lot of money when you go into the car business. Do you not? I mean,
so you think this could be all show and no go?
No, I'm just saying they never officially announced that they were even doing a car. So they scrapped something that they were researching. It would have, I mean, I would have loved to have seen an Apple car just to see what they pulled off. But
Gordon is saying a self-driving car, maybe the Apple Mobile, says John.
Yeah. Lots of fun. Right now in Barcelona is MWC, formerly known as the Mobile World Congress. This is the big wireless phone show for the rest of the world. Most of the products there really aimed at Asia and Europe. The thing that I found the most exciting, and I sent Tony a picture of it, so if we're in sync, is
this is the coolest picture. I don't know what the actual.
This is the phone that wraps around your wrist.
Go ahead, Tony. Throw it up there.
It's a bendable phone, and it will wrap around your wrist, and then
it's in the private chat, Tony. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. It's a bendable.
So a combo watch phone. It'll never come out. I don't think you'll ever see it, but they're showing it off at the trade show anyway.
And so that's a prototypical version of this wraparound phone. But you're saying you don't think it'll ever. Why don't you think it'll ever come out?
I think they'd make these things to get people, oohing and eyeing at trade shows, and maybe it'll come out. What was it? 5 years ago, Amazon announced the Ring home drone that flew around your living room and to keep, to let you know what was going on when you were at work. That never came out. That's just another example of silly things that get announced at these shows. Great. I don't want to wrap a phone around my wrist. I don't know about you, but it's not something that I've been thinking about a lot. I'm very happy with it in my pocket. I think it's going to be more comfortable in my pocket too. I'm not in Barcelona. I can't speak, but that's just my take. No price announced. Motorola used to be a big player here. I would like to see one person who is watching this right now raise their hand and tell us they have a Motorola phone, because you just don't see a lot of them here. Samsung, who you do see a lot of stuff from, announced a new ring that they're going to put out. The details are scarce, but it's for health and for sleep monitoring. No pricing announced. Expected to be in the $250 to $400 range, competing with the Oura Ring, O-U-R-A, which is out now and sells for $350 plus $6 a month. Plus $6 a month to get access to your sleep data and your health data. So I'm passing on that. I don't like subscriptions.
For those who are new
with.
here, Jeff really does feature like the newest stuff. So, the Apple Vision thing, I'm just, whatever you just saw, the wraparound phone, and then he does the Aura, but he'll break down the price and go, so pass, no retail interest in that, no demand for that. So a lot of the stuff that is leading tech is kind of in the area, at least from a consumer standpoint, of not really ready for prime time.
But I know somebody who's...
The Oura Ring, though, does sell pretty well, doesn't it, Jeff?
I don't... please raise your hand if you're watching this show right now and you have one on your finger.
I've seen a few of them.
Right, a few of them.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I think the $6 a month would stop you, $70 a year to have access to this information, which you can get on your phone. I know somebody who's shopping for a new iPad. Okay, speaking of consumers. And the price range on the iPad, $329 to $1,299. That's $329 to $1,300 for basically a large iPhone that you can show pictures on and watch TV and watch movies. And I believe that my friend who was shopping for one picked the one for $329. Did he not?
I did. I picked that. And I also remembered something that you told me. You gave me one really good piece of information, and you gave me one really bad piece of information. Let me give you the good one first. The good one was, don't waste your money on getting another cell plan with your iPad. You don't need that. You can either find Wi-Fi. There's plenty of places where there's Wi-Fi, and use the iPad with Wi-Fi, or you can toggle off of your cell phone, and there's no need to get another. Right. So that was a really good piece of advice. Saved me money, and it came from Jefferson Graham. The bad piece of advice he gave me on the iPad was, don't worry about a cover. Don't worry about a case. You can just prop it up. So I didn't. And of course, you can't just prop it up. You need a case to prop it up. You need, and the cases are terrific now. And you could, built into them is sort of a stand, so you can watch whatever you're watching, etc. But I'd say on balance, you're still a winner, Jeff. But that's my.
You could also get the case with the keyboard, and that's kind of nice. And on the Wi-Fi, just for a second, because I've just been traveling for a few days, and I was staying in motel rooms. And in the motel room I had in Gilroy, the garlic capital of the world, where I was the other night, I couldn't get a signal from their Wi-Fi, but I could get it off here and just transfer it to my computer and the iPad. So that's what I did.
It's sometimes more dependable. That for whatever reason, that cell stuff comes in more quickly than does the Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you order the iPad? Did you get it?
Yeah, it's already come. She's using it.
Oh, good.
I got it for Courtney.
And she likes
it? She's using it now. Yeah, she really likes it. And she's excited. Okay. I mean, it's fun to give something, and tech does that. It opens up a world for somebody, or it opens up some functionality to their world. And so I think there was some of that. So I'd love to see her so excited about it. So.
Okay. Hopefully we'll see a murder mystery on there, huh?
Yeah, she's into that true crime stuff. The kids love that. Jeff, what do you have on Photo Walks TV on the way out? Share it with us.
Venice Beach I did last week, and I also went to the Great Chinatown New Year's Parade.
I saw that in San Francisco. Yeah.
Yes. Which I don't know. I know we have a lot of listeners and viewers from San Francisco. This is supposed to be one of the greatest parades. You've heard that, right, Mark? It's one of the greatest parades. Yeah. It was boring. I mean, it was 2.5 hours. Now, I made a video that's 3 minutes long, so I just put in the good stuff. But there were a lot of politicians in cars waving for a long time, and saw some great dragons. But the really fun stuff is the stuff that Tony's showing right now, which is after the parade, people went berserk in Chinatown with firecrackers and fireworks. Was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny to see kids out there like that with all the fireworks, and I don't know, it scares me. But I guess we did it as kids too. But
not like this. Not like this.
Yeah, it seems like the firepower's gotten a little more intense. But anyway, that's at Photo Walks TV. You can find Jeff on YouTube with Photo Walks TV. Also his Substack, which I do recommend. There are links to it all in this video and in this show. Jefferson Graham, appreciate you. And it sounds like we're going to have a lighting session maybe this weekend.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. Jefferson Graham, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Have you ever taken the kids to the Chinatown parade, Kim? Seems like something that maybe families do.
I haven't done it. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, I kind of try to avoid the crowds.
It is definitely a crowd, and there's enough volatility with the crowd that it might be tricky. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that would worry me. But I have a palette. I'm sorry?
I was going to say there's a little dragon parade in Petaluma that we go to.
No, that's cool. That might be a more manageable version of the Chinatown parade. Yeah, right on. I have a palate cleanser, and I think I have time for it before David Cay Johnston comes on, and we hit the trail on Trump. David Cay Johnston made a prediction that now about Trump and about money, and it now looks as though it's insanely likely to happen.
Wow.
And he was the first guy I heard anywhere make this prediction, and I will tell you about what that prediction was and is when David Cay Johnston joins in just a few moments. So All right, let me get a...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I guess this Nvidia stock is breaking records. Jeez.
Crazy.
It has joined the ranks of $2 trillion companies, meaning $2 trillion in value. It went above 800, which makes it the most expensive, what they call Magnificent Seven stock in absolute terms. It may be on its way to becoming the biggest, most valuable U.S. company. Only Microsoft and Apple have a market cap larger than this Nvidia. They're involved in semiconductor design, you know, and they've passed Amazon and passed Google in terms of their size.
I was reading that not only did they hit 2 billion briefly, but they did it in record time. So it took other companies years, right, of business to reach what they did in, I want to say it was like 175 days. I mean, it was really fast. Yeah. It's
a young company. It's really been fueled, I think, by a lot of, the interest in AI and the way these semiconductor chips are being reshaped. But it's astounding to watch it. But it's the darling of Wall Street, you know. I have also I'm trying to find it now. Did you see the flip of the coin experiment that they did?
No.
Oh, this is great. And I have it right here because I saw it before. I stock this show with so much stuff, and sometimes I can't find what I need when I need it. Stand by. Here it is.
Okay.
And it went down at Stanford, an experiment. Check this out.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I believe this experiment went down at Stanford, and when you flip a coin, it's supposed to be 50-50, right? Sure. Heads or tails. It's the way to fairly pick everything. We'll just flip a coin. It's a tradition that dates back to the Roman Empire. But is it really 50-50?
It better be. I mean, think of all the ways we decide football games on the flip of a coin.
Thank you.
What? Come on.
There was a Stanford University professor and magician named Percy Diakonos who conducted a study into coin flips with two fellow researchers, found that there was a 51% chance that the coin would land on the same side that was facing upwards when it was flipped. A more recent study by a group of 50 researchers from institutions across Europe backed up those findings. So in this study, this most recent study in 2023, they flipped the coin, and you have to have a representative number. You can't flip the coin 100 times and then put out a research study, right? It has to be thousands of times. I mean, there has to be a database.
Imagine all the college students they sucked into doing this. We're doing this coin flipping study.
I really would love to see the video.
Everybody out at the quad, we're flipping coins.
They flipped a coin 350,757 times.
Oh, man, what a pain in the ass.
And it wasn't just the same coin. I think they had different... In other words, they didn't want it to be determined by an irregularity in the coin. Okay? There is the full report. Fair coins, that is heads or tail coins, tend to land on the same side they started. And here is the research paper found by Tony. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
And this is evidence from, as I say, 350,757 coin flips using 46 different currencies. They found that the coins would land same side up 50.8% of the time. Now, this is incredibly close to 50-50, right? 50.8%.
Isn't that statistically, insignificant?
Well, you may say it's insignificant, but I'll take it. It means that there's a little bit of an edge to the side that is up already. Referencing the earlier study, researchers said that this wobble, essentially, causes the coin to spend more time in the air with the initial side facing up. Consequently, the coin has a higher chance of landing on the same side as it started. Now, you can take the view that, well, it's effectively 50-50. I understand it's not exactly 50-50. Okay, still, give me the one with the slight edge then. If it doesn't bother, you don't care. How to tip the odds in your favor. There is the exploratory analyses that we have up. If the scientific research suggests that this is indeed the case, the way to make it fair is to do what? To hide the coin from view before it's flipped. So neither side can see which side is face up.
Sure.
But when there's a lot on the line, wouldn't you take wouldn't take the almost 1% more?
Well, I guess I would. Well, could we have a different way of flipping so that, maybe we roll it and see which side it stops on?
That's probably even less fair.
It doesn't start from a side. It just starts from a, roll. No.
Kim, you liberals and progressives all want to change everything.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes. It's you, Democrats and liberals. You all want to change the way we flip a coin now.
Yeah.
It's not fair enough for you. Is that the point? All right.
Yeah, it is. And do we have to call it coin flipping? Can we call it something else? The name
there
offends
you go.
me.
That's what we're up against.
Yeah.
All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy's a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yeah.
He is a best-selling author. New York Times bestsellers are terrific. I've told you before, you can needle drop them. You can crack those books open anywhere, the David Cay Johnston books, and it is a revelation as to everything going on from the moneyed class, the high-end real estate class in New York from which Donald Trump has come, to anyone who's just got a lot of money and is able to manipulate the tax system. But since his last few books have been about Trump, he's been everywhere talking about Trump, who's so very important, frankly, in the future of this country and of this democracy. Such a pleasure to join this guy on Tuesdays here on this show. He's David Cay Johnston, everybody.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, sir. You had a great piece in dcreport.org, which you helped found that website. You had a great piece in dcreport.org kind of x-raying the South Carolina results. And maybe we can start there, and then I want to get to the Trump money, because you were ahead of everybody on a prediction around this money. So please, let's start in South Carolina.
Well, the New York Times headline online about the South Carolina vote Saturday was "Big Win for Donald Trump." There were similar headlines in papers I checked all across the country and other news services. No, that's not what happened. 40% of Republicans voted for Nikki Haley. Now, Trump won. He got 3 votes for every 2 she got. But 40% of Republicans aren't supporting Nikki Haley. So let's see. About 40% of Americans are Republicans. 60% means that only about 24% of Americans are backing Trump when it comes to actually voting at the voting booth. You don't win elections unless you broaden your support. He has a very solid base. They're never going to leave him, even if he's convicted on all 91 felony charges. Some of them may, but overwhelmingly they're going to stay with him. But he is vulnerable. He is a weak candidate. He lost in 2016 by over 3 million votes. He lost in 2020 by over 7 million. And he's going to lose by more than 10 million, I predict, this time around. Now, he can still get back to the White House if he wins the right states. There are 13 states in the Old South and the Midwest that are in play. And that was who will determine who goes to the White House, not the popular vote.
Yeah, sadly, this system is set up it's really geared toward the GOP at this point. And so
and it was set up that way to protect slavery. The purpose of this in the beginning, the 3/5 of a person clause that one of the framers of our Constitution, James F. Wilson, came up with, and a number of other constitutional provisions were all there to allow a union between slave and non-slave states. And that legacy from the 18th century has never been fully corrected.
Well, and now there is a party, a major political party, incentivized to never touch it. The GOP is just in the same way they're not touching a lot of things, specifically representation. For example, they'd have electoral college votes, et cetera. So they don't want to break a system that's working so well for them. Now I want to get to the Trump money. So as he has more and more judgments, and you've detailed quite beautifully all of the different judgments he has and how they compound interest, et cetera, he's going to have to come up with some money, David, and then you've made a prediction that I haven't seen anywhere else, and now it seems to be, it would seem to be the likely eventuality. I wonder if you could get into that.
Well, what I predicted is that there's a high chance that Donald Trump will file personal bankruptcy before March 12th. That's 13 days away. Because on that day, in the E. Jean Carroll second defamation case, where the jury awarded over $83 million, if he hasn't either put up the money to the court in cash or gotten a bond, some financial institution guaranteeing the payment, and they have to really guarantee it. If he loses on appeal, the court money will be taken immediately, and they will then have to go try and collect from Donald Trump, who is notorious for not paying his bills, delaying, and everything else. If he files personal bankruptcy, which Rudy Giuliani did in December and Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist, did more than 2 years ago, what he would get is delays in the proceedings. The moment you file bankruptcy, all civil matters against you stop for at least 45 days. Donald's goal is to get past November 5th. Now, it'll cost him a fortune, $87,000 a day in interest in the New York case, if he does this. But that's not his focus. His focus is, I want back in the White House, because then he thinks he can fix everything. And after all, he's promised to round up people, to prosecute people who haven't committed crimes or he doesn't dislike them, and to become dictator on the first day. He says he'll give it up on the second day. Right. My wife is 24 years old, too.
Well, by the way, and just to that point, I mean, he did go after people. You know what he did to Vindman and the Vindman family after that impeachment?
Well, he did a Michael Cohen. He had Michael Cohen over a book put back in jail, and the judge held this was an improper violation of Cohen's First Amendment rights. So it might seem odd that Donald would file personal bankruptcy. And let me be very clear. Donald has never filed bankruptcy. There's all these things on the meme. He filed bankruptcy again and again. That is not true. In 1990, with the aid of the New Jersey casino regulators who were violating their oath of office, something I covered intensely during that period, he got his bankers to let him out of $1 billion of the $3 billion of debt that he had. But he didn't file bankruptcy. This was casino regulators taking a major New Jersey employer's side against out-of-state bankers. Not a hard political choice, but a terrible legal choice. Then he created a publicly traded casino company, the only publicly traded company he's ever had. Under his watch, it went bankrupt 4 times, while he extracted over $83 million in money. And I think that's a low number. That's what they had to disclose. There are other ways he could take money out that weren't disclosed. And then he was paid essentially to go away. And the company went through 2 more bankruptcies, and then it shut down. And his Taj Mahal casino is no longer a casino. His Trump Plaza casino is gone, and his Trump Castle casino is owned by somebody else. But filing personal bankruptcy won't even be hard for Donald to explain to his followers. You know, he can say, listen, I'm as rich as ever. I'm worth billions of dollars. I'm very rich. But, you know, the deep state Marxist fascists, they forced me to do this. They made me do this. And you know what? If they succeed, they're going to come take your house. They're going to take your 401k plan. I'm doing this for you. And those people will buy it because look at all the lies they've bought so far.
Let me double back, David, to the distinction you've made. You're suggesting that the bankruptcies that we've heard so much about through the years, they were corporate bankruptcies, they
Correct.
were business bankruptcies, so he'd siphon all that money out of it, and then he just declared bankruptcy.
And then he'd leave the carcass behind for other people to clean up. And this is a key thing to understand about Donald Trump. And if you read carefully, as I've done, and analyze his own books that he had people write for him, but they're working off his, comments to them. Donald Trump is not a wealth creator. A wealth creator has a business. It accumulates more than its costs, and over time, the owner or owners get better off financially. What Donald does is acquire a business, start drawing all the money he can out of it, stiffing, as it goes on, stiffing vendors, stiffing employees, stiffing the government on taxes, and letting the business collapse. And then he says, I was so smart to get out at the right time. This is, frankly, very much like what's known as a mafia bust-out. Some guy gets in hock to loan sharks or illegal gambling operations. The movie Goodfellas does a great job with this. They take over your bar. They order all sorts of liquor and steaks and other stuff in the back door. They then take them out as soon as the delivery guys leave. And then when it's all over, they torch the joint. And that's what Donald did, except he didn't torch the joint.
Yeah. He left it to others to kind of just close it down.
Yeah.
There's something happening with this case, the criminal case over the Stormy Daniels hush money, that you can tell us in a way whether or not this is unusual. On the unusual scale, a gag order is being sought on Trump ahead of time. Is this something that's typical, or and what exactly do they want?
I think in my career, which goes back to 1966, I've written one time in the past about a gag order, and it was over a defendant who was just crazy. I don't know how else to describe him, and ranting on and on and on. I mean, he wasn't legally crazy, but he was, like Donald, just out of control. Donald has been doing things that are intimidating witnesses and making people not want to serve on a jury. We saw in the case of the two women who sued Rudy Giuliani in Georgia, people came to their house and threatened them, and law enforcement came to one of the two women and said, people are going to kill you. You have to get out of your house. And so Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, wants a limited order on Trump. He can criticize Alvin Bragg all he wants. Alvin Bragg, by the way, has 24-hour-a-day police protection because of all the threats on his life. An enormous number of them have just been revealed in court. And as does, a bunch of judges and other people. And what he wants is an order that Trump may not talk about the other prosecutors. He may not talk about the judge or the judge's staff. He may not talk about potential witnesses. And while the names of the jurors would be known to Trump's lawyers, they are absolutely prohibited from transmitting any information about them to anyone else, and they won't be given their addresses. Although, frankly, finding people's addresses isn't that tough to do. But I think actually this is a necessary action, and you're going to see it in all of the prosecutions as they get close to trial. And one last thing to remember, Donald is screaming, this violates my First Amendment rights. When you are a criminal defendant out on bail, you don't have the same rights. The judge could say, fine, Mr. Trump, if you're not going to go by the rules, I'm going to remand you, that is, hold you in custody until your trial. And that happens a lot where people violate the conditions of their freedom. Donald Trump is a criminal defendant. He is not an entirely free man. He's not been convicted of anything, but during the process, the system is designed to make sure that we can watch you and we can lock you up if need be. As, by the way, just happened with the Russian agent in the Joe Biden alleged bribery scandal from Ukraine. Turns out the FBI's confidential informant, who was on their payroll for 10 years, turns out to have close connections to and regular contact with Russian intelligence, which, of course, is a terrible story for the FBI. And I suspect there's an agent or two who's been having one of those really prestigious jobs involving counterintelligence who's about to find himself in Missoula, Montana.
Well, and then it's a bad look for the GOP that essentially hung their entire impeachment case against corrupt Joe Biden on this FBI informant. Now, they still want to proceed with that case.
They doubled down.
Yes.
Well, they learned the lesson from Donald Trump that Donald was taught by the notorious Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was the lawyer for Senator Joseph McCarthy, and then after he left the government, for all sorts of mobsters and celebrities and Donald Trump. And he taught Donald the three basic lessons. Delay any legal proceeding. If law enforcement comes after you, if anyone else comes after you, they're corrupt, they're dishonest, you're a decent, hardworking person. And thirdly, relevant to this case, never acknowledge the slightest error or mistake. Double down, triple down, quadruple down. Once you have said it, it never changes. You never back off that, no matter how obvious it is that it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's worked. I mean, it's quite remarkable. And you see a little bit of it on the GOP side now, as you suggested, being adopted by by members of that committee, Jim Jordan and the like. There's Donald Trump and Roy Cohn. And I think there's a pretty good documentary called Citizen Cohn. Which,
yes, there's a very good documentary. There's a feature film that Nick von Hoffman came from his book. I thought that was called Citizen Cohn, but there's a democracy. There's a documentary. It's called Where's My Roy Cohn?
Oh.
Donald Trump wanted the Attorney General of the United States to be his personal Roy Cohn because he thinks the Attorney General is his lawyer, not the people's lawyer.
Yeah, it's a remarkable thing, and the GOP has seen its efficacy, and they've adopted it. It seems, David, moving forward, as we've seen with this impeachment proceeding. There it is. Where's My Roy Cohn? Maybe that's the movie that I saw. I forget.
I'm in that one.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, you're in anything with Trump, you're going to be in. That doesn't help me distinguish because you're in a lot. Let me ask you just the last thing when it comes to the Trump money. I just always like to review exactly where we are. He has this huge judgment. You've talked about how the interest is going to compound. You've predicted ahead of everyone. You think that there'll be a personal bankruptcy declared. Now, that will, again, just review for us, that will cocoon him a bit, or it will in some way inoculate him. How does it affect his need to write a big check?
Well, one thing, interest in a civil judgment doesn't compound. It just adds. The judgment is fixed, and then each day he owes. In the case of the civil judgment, we just issued $87,000 a day.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so Trump files bankruptcy. He gets an automatic stay. Everybody trying to collect a debt, the police officers from the Capitol suing him over January 6th, et cetera, all those civil proceedings stop for the moment. And that's because the principle of bankruptcy law is to try and extract as much money as possible for the creditors, and if possible, sustain the enterprise. When it's a corporate bankruptcy, in Trump's case, he's the sole owner of his businesses, so it really doesn't matter. There'd be no point in his filing corporate bankruptcy because he's personally liable. Now, here's the really scary scenario to think about. Trump may find somebody who will put up the roughly $540 million that he has to pay in the two cases. Who would that be? It's not going to be any major New York bank because he is prohibited from doing business with any bank registered in New York State. So the Community Bank of East Keokuk, Texas, doesn't have the money to make this kind of loan. All the big banks are there. All the banks who could make this kind of a loan are there. He might find a wealthy individual, actual billionaire, unlike Donald, here in America, who would put up the money. And he could turn to a foreign source like MBS, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, who gave his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, $2 billion to manage, even though every advisor to the royal family in Riyadh said, don't do this. These people don't know what they're doing. They're charging you too much in fees, et cetera, which made it clear this was a political favor for things that were done for them during the Trump administration. And Donald, when he announced almost 9 years ago, he came down the staircase at Trump Tower. What did he say? I am so rich. I'm worth more than $10 billion. I don't need anybody's money. I don't take money from lobbyists. I don't have to raise any money to run for president. That allows me to be completely free of influence and to represent you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the message. Think about having a president of the United States who owes a foreign government or some billionaire over $500 million, the leverage that person would have over them. Now, Trump might turn around if the Republicans control Congress and try to get a law passed to pay off his loans. And in Florida, there was a bill introduced to have taxpayers pay Donald Trump's legal bills. So that not beyond the possibility. Just the key thing to keep in mind is Donald Trump is fixated on a single date, November 5th, 2024. As long as he gets to November 6th, it doesn't matter to him. He figures he'll work everything out.
The companies that he runs that are him, as you say, during this period of bankruptcy, will they still adhere to the court's decision? And that is to say they'll be run by independent, they'll be taken essentially from the Trump people.
Yes. Donald is no longer running his businesses. He has been removed for the time being. Now, an appeals court might change that. I think that's unlikely. But for the time being, the company is being overseen by retired federal judge Barbara S. Jones as the monitor. And previously, Trump and his sons had to report large money movements after the fact. I mean, she doesn't want to hear about, we paid the vendor for delivering whiskey to one of the golf courses. They don't care about that. Big money movements. And she reported that after sending in accountants that they had violated the court's order and had done all sorts of improper money movements. So the judge's decision now says no big money movements without the advance approval of Judge Jones. In addition, and I think this is the most significant part of the ruling, Judge Arthur Engoron put in someone he called a special independent compliance monitor. Basically, somebody who reports to Judge Jones, who is going to independent compliance director. That person, as a practical matter, is going to run the company, not the day-to-day business, but at the executive level of the company. And Donald will still get, if he had a draw that he took or a salary, he's probably still going to get that. The sons are going to get their salaries. Ordinary business is going to go forward. People can still go play golf because the object is not to ruin the businesses, it's to maintain them. But he will not be able to, as the lawyers say, or bankers say, hypothecate. He won't be able to borrow money against the assets without the advance approval. And who he borrows from, therefore, is going to be subject to this approval, I suspect, if any of the business assets are pledged. And I can't imagine even MBS, who is such a ruthless man that he had 39 Saudi citizens beheaded for the crime of praying for a better government. So this was 10 years ago, 2014. Beheaded for the crime of praying for a better government. I can't imagine he would essentially give a signature debt like your credit card to Donald Trump for over $500 million. But then again, who knows? There are a lot of things the Saudis want from us. They want nuclear materials and technology, which, by the way, would allow them to build a bomb to blow up Israel. Who knows? But
I mean, it might be a futures bet, as they say in Las Vegas, when you're betting on the future. This guy. It's just and it's kind of a rounding error, probably, to MBS. I mean, right?
Anybody who owns a country, whether you own Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain,
that's a good business to get into, David. You think?
They have family businesses that we call countries, but the thing I would worry about is, given how much people like Ted Cruz and Elise Stefanik and others have kissed Donald's ring, if he were to borrow the money from the Kremlin, from a Russian oligarch, from MBS, from dictator Kim, not that he certainly doesn't have the money in North Korea, I'll bet you they would justify that. They wouldn't say this is an outrage and a horror and our national security is a threat. They would go, well, he was forced to do this. This is what happens. That would be
always an argument like that.
That's scary.
I like that you mentioned national security, and now we're finishing up. This is our last minute with David Cay Johnston. But, I remember at the beginning of the Trump administration, his family could not pass background checks to get security clearance. He bigfooted it and got them all top secret security clearance. But the truth is, one of the reasons, and as I've read, I think in one of your books, that you can't get that clearance is if you're compromised financially in some way that is beholden to a debt that you have with foreign governments, or even if you have big gambling debts, because they know that you're desperate to fill those debts. You could be selling government information, et cetera. In this case, you've got a guy who's trying to be president of the United States who fills those categories of those who would be insanely bad security risks.
You're exactly right. And here's part of the problem. We have so many people in America whose reading skills are so weak and whose understanding of how government works is so bad that argument would go right over their heads. Not everybody, but enough people. And remember, Donald Trump, what's he say? I love the poorly educated. That's because they're the easiest to fleece because they don't have the knowledge of how things work or should work. And so we should be very, very worried about where Donald's going to get this money if he does. And if he doesn't get it, filing personal bankruptcy, getting the right lawyers to muck up the system, eventually it could all go to pieces for him, but he's focused on November 5th. If he can just delay everything till November 5th, doesn't have to be exposed as somebody who, as I've been saying for years, isn't a billionaire and never was. That's what he's going to do, because if he can get back to the White House, then he thinks he can make this all go away. And frankly, I think he can. If he becomes, as I have said for 9 years, and he just said, first day I'm going to be dictator.
He clearly worships at the Church of Authoritarianism. I'm going to we'll link to your latest pieces in DC Report, and love reading your stuff, and your takes are just so great. And now the world wants you, so I feel very lucky that we get you on Tuesdays. You've met your moment, David Cay Johnston. Great to have you here. Thank you so much,
my friend.
Okay, David Cay Johnston, everybody. Bravo.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Many thanks to all of you who have hit the like button, gave us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and I guess it helps in the algorithms of YouTube
with your iron rod
to get the thumbs up. Love David, and much to talk about. Also tomorrow we'll get into politics with Rothman, and Thursday the insanely popular David Katz. I just saw him on last night on television in New York and on BBC, I believe, in London, and we'll have him here on Thursday, so I'm super excited about that. When we come back, Kim's news first, but then I have some craziness, utter craziness, not related to Trump. But I also want to, we'll tie up some business and respond to some comments and any questions and comments and other stuff, pushback in the chat. We'll get to that as we continue. So Kim's news, and then we get to all of that. Mark Thompson. Everything okay, Kim?
Yeah, all good.
All right,
ready to rock and roll?
Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Off we go to Michigan. Yes, they're holding their presidential primary today. Republicans and Democrats going to the polls in this battleground state, which holds the final major contest before Super Tuesday. So there it is. Border funding and aid to Ukraine, major stumbling blocks. Here is what they're doing at the state capitol, as lawmakers scramble to avoid a partial government shutdown. Friday is the deadline. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying history is watching after President Biden met with congressional leaders today trying to break the stalemate. House Speaker Mike Johnson said securing the border is the number one concern among Republicans and takes precedent over any spending bills involving Ukraine or involving Israel. They are seemingly far away from a deal on this. So, again, with the deadline looming, a partial government shutdown appearing closer and closer. Consumer confidence fell in February. Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index declined nearly 4 points after 3 straight months of gains. The board's chief economist saying the February decline reflects persistent uncertainty about the United States economy. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is criticizing Republicans for the latest effort to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. Here we go again. The Mayor Bass calling it a waste of taxpayer dollars. The mayor said Newsom has repeatedly helped Los Angeles, including in just the last year, helping address the homeless problem, rebuilding the 10 freeway near downtown, and with recovery from recent storms. Now, the latest would be the 5th attempt to oust Newsom from office. The conservative group behind the recall effort says Newsom has abandoned California to advance his presidential aspirations while leaving behind a $68 billion deficit. A new poll indicates that illegal immigration is the top issue among voters. The Monmouth University poll concluded many voters consider the matter a very serious problem. 8 in 10 Americans across party lines do see illegal immigration as at least somewhat of a serious problem. 91% of registered Republicans consider it a very serious issue, compared with 58% of independents and 41% of Democrats. Again, that's the Monmouth University poll. But a new Gallup poll released today found 28% of Americans name immigration as the country's top issue.
Yeah.
That an 8% increase from last month. Immigration was followed by government and the economy in general as other top concerns among Americans. Two polls coming out.
And we were talking about that at the beginning of the show, remember? About the things that are most important to you and how they've, I mean, again, it's a legit issue. There's no problem with being focused on it and even really being super worried about it. But there's other super worrying stuff going on also. It's just wild how that's become a front and center issue.
Well, and it's definitely shows in both of these polls that came out that it's along party lines, right?
Right, I mean, it's the part, right. And I think the bullhorn of right-wing media is so powerful. You know, essentially all of talk radio is right-wing. You've got Fox News Channel, which is right-wing. I mean, I'm talking about hard right. And then that OAN, you know, again, extreme right. So, you know, that's a lot of people. And so when you start polling enough people, they're getting their information and they're getting their concern about what things this country has to deal with from those news outlets. I think it's a manufactured anxiety, even though it's a legitimate anxiety. The objective reality is not balanced by anything else.
After a very rough start, Google plans to relaunch its Gemini AI image generator in a few weeks. The platform was taken offline last week after users complained of inaccurate historical images. Among the controversial images Gemini generated, a female pope and black Vikings, among other things. AI got it wrong that time. They're trying to fix that up. Wait a minute. We didn't take it off. We're going to fix it right up. It's okay. Wallet Hub is out now with its annual list of the 20th happy cities in America. Southern California, pretty well represented. So is Northern California. Irvine, number 5. Huntington Beach, Garden Grove, and San Diego, also on the list. Number 1 spot, though, does remain in California. It is Fremont in Northern California, the happiest city in America. In Fremont? Yeah.
Well,
Wallet Hub looked at things like the percentage of households making at least $75,000 a year. In Fremont, that number is 81%. They're loaded in Fremont, so it's okay.
It's the Beverly Hills of the Bay Area.
It is. And I guess the Wallet Hub thinks if you have money, that makes you happy. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there's considerable anecdotal evidence that it doesn't hurt. I will say that, right? I mean,
we have processes and protocols and standards.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, who knows? I guess
I'm not saying money is the most important thing, but again, if you polled Americans,
yeah,
those same Americans who took the last poll, I'm guessing money probably come in pretty high.
I mean, if they're thinking about the economy, then I guess they're thinking about the money.
Cash.
That's right. Mr. President knows. For Trump, it's the money. Yeah.
We talked about this guy yesterday. This is Flaco, the owl. Yeah, I say Flaco, but Flaco the Eurasian eagle owl is one of a billion birds that will die from striking a building in the United States. But New York City is making an effort to decrease those numbers. According to the New York Times, In 2019, New York City passed a legislation requiring builders to use bird-friendly material in all new construction and large renovations. The city also requires city-owned and managed buildings to shut off all non-essential outdoor lights at night during peak migration months. In addition, on Monday, a bill was renamed the Flocko Act for Feathered Lives Also Count, which would require more buildings in New York State to use bird-friendly material. So it looks like
That's
at least
a big problem. It's cool that they're addressing it on some level.
yeah, at least something is being done, right? We like this. I guess from owls to rats, because we know they munch them down. I don't know if you've heard about this. Family Dollar stores are paying a $40 million fine after pleading guilty to unsanitary conditions in a rodent-infested warehouse.
Yes, we showed the pictures, remember?
Gross.
We showed the pictures on this show.
The FDA in February of 2022 reported finding more than 1,000 rats inside the West Memphis, Arkansas warehouse, which caused a recall of products from more than 400 Family Dollar stores. The fine is part of a plea deal. It is the largest monetary criminal penalty ever given in a food safety case. Family Dollar now has to meet safety standards for the next 3 years and maybe have to increase prices to meet that big fine.
Oh, yeah. That could be a dollar store anymore, you don't think?
No, get $2 now because, got to make up that money. Kellogg's CEO Gary Pilnick says people should eat cereal for dinner to save money on soaring food costs. He told CNBC last week, it's much more affordable, and it helps out when consumers are under pressure.
He's like the NRA directors who just feel like a gun is the answer to every situation. Well, you need more guns.
Cereal is the answer.
You're not carrying enough guns. That's the problem. You're not eating enough cereal. You need
Have some
cereal
Fruity
in the morning
Pebbles.
and cereal before you go to bed at night.
Yeah. Have some Fruity Pebbles. It makes everything better. Kellogg's has been pushing cereal for dinner since 2022 when it started a campaign with the tagline, "Give chicken the night off." Okay. No thanks. This report is sponsored.
I'll give him credit for trying. I mean, it
there is
was,
that.
but I was.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It's a wild idea.
You know what I'd rather have for dinner, Mr.
there you
Kellogg's?
Oh,
yes,
my God.
That's exactly right. I'll have some wine from Tenuta Vineyards. Give me the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red.
Oh,
Why are you yelling?
That's
big
a
old
fabulous
goblet wine glass in front of a roaring fire, and I'm good. Keep your Fruity Pebbles and just give me the wine. I'm taking it. Tenuta Vineyards. And you know what?
Hey, which one do you use? Mark Thompson?
Yeah.
There's the guy with the picture on the wine bottles who he is.
Yeah, damn straight.
You can go out there and taste too.
My big break was getting on those wine bottles. I'll be honest with you.
You know,
I've been able to ride that to a little bit of a social media presence. You start with the wine bottles. Before you know it, your face is on everything. Just ask.
It symbolizes
ask the former president.
That's right. I mean, speaking of cereal, one day you're on the wine bottle, the next day you're on the Wheaties box. So
right. Okay.
This is
There's
how
never
how
been
it goes.
anything like this.
That's right. Exactly.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
Right.
14 whites, 14 reds, so many to choose from. And when the weather gets a little better, you can go out to the winery in Livermore, walk around the property, do some wine tasting. They've got a space there to host small and large events. So check it out. Tenuta Vineyards, and you get 10% off just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener.
Yes, you do.
It's fantastic.
It pretty much is fantastic.
You do have to work for it a little bit, though.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. You have to call them and say,
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Okay.
Smash it with your iron rod.
That's the phrase that pays.
Then, you talk to Rich or Nancy out at the winery. You say, smash it with your iron rod.
Okay.
In the wackiest way possible. And you get your 10% off.
Well, it's not an audition. You can just say the phrase and then you'll give you the 10%.
Well, you don't call them in a monotone voice and go,
why not? I don't think Rich.
I heard I got a discount if I say smash it with your iron rod.
I don't think they're that tough. I
Smash it.
really
No,
don't.
you give it some oomph. You say,
wow.
Just like the lady, smash it with your iron rod.
No,
Show me the money.
I think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
Exactly. I wouldn't hit it too hard. I think you're fine.
Oh, no, I punch it. Absolutely.
All right, if you say so.
No.
Okay, whatever. I'm saying it's not an audition. You can just call them. They're great people out there at Tenuta Vineyard. Yeah, Tenuta Winery.
Tenuta Vineyards.
Livermore Valley, for those who don't know, the east You go, if you went from San Francisco as the crow flies, you just go straight across the bay and keep going. And it's a beautiful country.
Yeah, it's really pretty out there. This report is, again, sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards, and our thanks to them. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
It's unbelievably offensive.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Hey, Mark, it's George Santos here. A lot of people are telling me you're a liar.
That's pure speculation.
There's always been, in this country, 30 to 35% idiots.
Morning.
Where are my weed smokers at? Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
Can you let him finish, sir? You cannot say you love your country.
That was very inappropriate. Don't talk to me that way.
What do you think I'm going to say to you?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yes, everyone. Smash the like button like a boss. Welcome. If you're new here, we've come from a radio station called KGO, giant radio station in the San Francisco Bay Area, covered all of Northern California and Central California as well in the evening hours, all of the West. And this terrific, historic radio station went away. We took the people from that station and we started our YouTube platform about a year ago. And we're really happy that you found us however you did. And we're really, honestly, here because of a fraction of the overall number of people who subscribe and watch. So I'm so grateful to everyone who is part of our Patreon and PayPal community and everybody who comes here and tosses that super sticker and super chat. It really does matter because without you, without the crowdfunding, we just go away. So it's the MarkThompsonShow.com. You can find us there with a hot link to Patreon and PayPal. You can contribute on either one. And, of course, you can reach us with an email at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Now, I've got Tony.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I think this falls into the category of some law and disorder. I wonder if you've got that ready to go. I will hit you with a couple of stories that I think cleanly fall into that category. This is law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
A 42-year-old man in Houston, Texas, pleading guilty to securities fraud for buying and selling stocks based on details that he learned from listening in on his wife's business conversations. I have to say, it's a
wild idea, but it just might work.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking. So his wife's on the phone talking, and he's jotting stuff down. He made $1.7 million in profits from listening to that conversation and trading those stocks on that information.
What? Those are some pretty juicy phone calls.
Yeah. His wife worked as a mergers and acquisition manager at an oil and gas conglomerate, BP. Maybe you've heard of it. They've kind of done a lot of business through time. British Petroleum. Mm-hmm. So when he overheard details of a BP plan to acquire a truck stop and travel center company that's based in Ohio, he thought, great, I'll buy 46,000 shares of the truck stop company before the merger is announced.
What a bonehead.
The stock took off after the merger, and it rose 71%.
Yeah.
He then, of course, sold the stock and cashed in the money.
There's never been anything like this.
Right. Now, he's going to be sentenced, and there it is. Tony has the SEC statement on this. He will be sentenced on May 17th, and he faces up to 5 years in federal prison, a possible fine of up to $250,000. He may also owe a fine and some other penalties, according to a separate filing that may be with the SEC in the months to come. No word on what that family meeting was like, but just saying it was a great plan until it wasn't.
My understanding is that they are headed for divorce court, and she lost her job too.
Wow.
Good day, sir.
That is... That's pretty bad.
She lost her husband and she lost her job, all because he was a giant bonehead.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. I guess that's what I'm getting at. A woman who took off in an unoccupied Amazon delivery van was arrested by Palo Alto cops.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I don't know what she's doing, joyriding or what. There she is. She doesn't look, again, on the booking photo meter, I'm going to put that at a 4. I mean, I've seen worse, but you're not even coming in at average. That's pretty...
She looks a little angry.
Oh, my God, yes. She's definitely going for anger there.
Mm-hmm.
The delivery driver had parked the van in the 400 block of West Charleston Road in Palo Alto. He hopped out to make a delivery, left the keys in the ignition, engine running. When he came back, he saw the van being driven away by that lady right there that you see. He watched it make a U-turn, and Amazon dispatchers worked with cops to track the van's travel. Somebody in our audience sent me, because we had another story, I think it was in Florida, of somebody jacking an Amazon van, and somebody who's an Amazon driver who listens to the show sent me an email showing me with screen grabs what the Amazon tracking technology is on board these vans, and it's insanely good. Like you can, it's like as you might imagine from Amazon, the best picture, the highest def, everything. You know exactly where the van is. We can see you driving it. It's just so. It's really a bad plan to jack an Amazon van unless you disable that technology somehow. Anyway, they worked with cops to track the van's travel. The woman ended up parking at an Amazon facility. Wow.
Just taking it home, really people. Just taking it home.
Don't get it.
Yeah, you really don't.
You don't.
I mean, you stole the van, you brought it back to an Amazon. Maybe you were trying to, you go, hey, look, no harm, no foul. All the packages inside the van were accounted for. The woman told cops that she just needed to get back to San Jose. That is a wild. 36 years old, booked into county jail, and that is that. And finally, to Hollywood, California, everybody, all of our friends in Southern California, a vacant multi-million-dollar mansion in the Hollywood Hills played host to a group of squatters earlier this year. We told you that story, including a fake lease agreement that they drew up.
Yeah.
A woman claiming to be making content for her OnlyFans page. Well, the real estate agents, Emily Randall Smith, her husband Tyler Smith, had planned to prepare the house for an open house. They were met with obvious signs that someone had made themselves at home. The security box where the agents had kept a key was broken open. New mailbox had been placed out front. And just before Christmas, the couple had shown the property to potential buyers, and then it sat vacant for a few weeks. The home is listed on Airbnb. It's fully furnished, including kitchenware. And on the day she and her husband returned to the home for the open house, they couldn't get inside. They looked through the window and spotted a man lying down in a bed in one of the bedrooms, and that's when they called the cops. when the cops came, they knocked on the door and nobody answered. They walked around the property, used the speaker on their police cruiser to order anyone in the house to come out. And the cops left because the homeowner said, we don't want you to break down the front door. So their real estate agents, the couple, waited at the bottom of their hill, and then they saw lights come on, and then they called the cops again. And this time, a woman answered the door. She said she was renting a room from a guy there, and she produced a lease agreement to the real estate agents. And the refrigerator was stocked. Police then got rid of the woman. She was the only person in there at the time. And then they took stock of the home, which had been, was in pretty bad shape. Although they did set up their own Wi-Fi, which is kind of nice.
What?
So, yeah, they really had, because you can look at that house and it might have some dead spots Wi-Fi wise, but they really made sure there was really slamming Wi-Fi through the whole thing. The house is still listed for sale, Kim. That's why I wanted to mention it to you. You and all of your OnlyFans model friends,
yeah, of course,
may want to take a shot at it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Got a free place to be. The
Hollywood Hills home at the center of so much controversy is cleaned up. It's ready to go. Those are not the best pictures of it.
For sale for how much?
Wow,
No.
Tony. I don't think that's
Thanks, Tony.
That's not the very. That's a much
How many
better
millions
picture.
do you want for that rat trap?
It does need a little work, but it is listed now. The listing price is not available, at least at this particular time. But if you are curious, I'll research it for you and I'll provide it for you. But thank you for those pictures, Tony. And there it is,
Tony.
a very controversial home, now vacant and back on the market. And with that,
No,
Tony,
wait. Can we hold
Yes.
for just a moment? Because I have some breaking news to include in Law and Disorder.
Oh, please.
Yeah, let's go to this.
I love
Two
it.
men have
Let's
been
do
found
it.
guilty in the murder.
Kim, how are you?
For
Yeah.
the 2002 killing of Run DMC's Jam Master Jay.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been talking. Weren't we talking about this on the show? I think we were talking about this case. And yeah, so this is a pretty serious situation with these two fellows that are now found guilty of murder. The Run DMC, of course, the pioneering DJ, the Jam Master Jay of Run DMC. And this has been a case that's been going on for decades. So Ronald Washington Jay's childhood, Ronald Washington is Jam Master Jay's childhood friend, and Carl Jordan Jr., Jay's godson, were convicted of murder while engaged in narcotics trafficking and firearm-related murder. So that's what we know.
Wow. Wow. That's big.
Yeah.
That is big. And with that, that's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
You know, I got some email asking about...
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Asking me to comment on CPAC. I mean, I always feel like CPAC and all of the stuff leading up to CPAC and the Trump stuff on... maybe we'll run some of it. You know, he had a big address over the weekend in front of a black audience, but of course it wasn't a black audience. There were like, 3 African Americans there, and it was otherwise his typical, fairly white audience. And he spoke before a Christian conference of media people, and he said some wild stuff. I will get to that. We've just been busy with so much other stuff related to his court cases, to the judgments, to the disposition of those judgments, et cetera, that we just haven't done that in a heavy way. But it's only Tuesday, so tomorrow I will get to some of that. And, there was word that Nazis were at CPAC and that they were essentially Nazism and racism was greeted with, if not open arms, certainly nothing that was on the level of revulsion. I mean, they had badges and they were, mingling with other CPAC members and circulating across this, this CPAC environment. But Donald Trump has been the keynote speaker since 2017 at CPAC, and there's a lot in the way of what's being hatched in the conservative bubble that now includes all of this white supremacy and, bigotry sort of is a quaint term for what you're seeing there. I mean, real hate. So, the Nick Fuentes thing where Trump had dinner with Fuentes, who's a white supremacist, et cetera. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the cesspool that is CPAC, and I'd be happy to comment more. And we'll share some sound with you and video with you tomorrow when you join. So that is when you join us, when we do the show. So that's still to come. So a couple of you had written to me about that. I wanted you to know. Is there, Tony, is there something else I want to do before we get done here? I wanted to...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted to recognize some people. Croquet Film, a really cool $5 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Thank you. We are crowdfunded, so appreciate all the couple of dollars. Angel in the Bay Area, 1178, which is the number, as you know, that Donald Trump wanted, right? All I need is 11,780. Thank you very much to Angel in the Bay Area.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
I did everything right, and they indicted me. Chad says, I don't understand why at this point people still associate with Trump. It's a losing proposition. You either go broke or you end up in prison. Yeah, this is so true. Thank you for the super sticker.
Big shout out.
The super chat. You're right. There is such a history of getting screwed personally, financially, reputationally, all with relation to a connection with Trump. But let me just speak to this. I read Frank Free Sneakers, maybe. I read Michael Cohen's book. He was Trump's personal lawyer, as you know. They called him the Fixer. I thought it was always weird that the media ran with the title The Fixer. Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's Fixer. Fixer? Was there another president who had a fixer? What's a fixer? And I loved how we just basically took this mafia term, fixer, and we applied it to Trump without question, without any sense of it being literally. I saw anchor people saying what I was saying on major news networks. Anyway,
how many scandals do you anticipate having that you need a fixer on standby?
Yeah, it's just a wild fact and job title. You'd think you'd cook up something else.
Yeah.
But advisor maybe would work. But when I read the book, and thank you, Judy Lyons. How about a shout out to Judy Lyons for a 20?
Big shout out.
Judy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I rather like it, Judy. Very good. Thank you for that, Judy. But when and Wes, how about a big
shout out,
big hug for Wes for a $5. But when I read his book, he talked about how people ended up in the orbit of Trump and how he ended up in the orbit of Trump and how you became intoxicated by it. He's so powerful as a personality that you felt you wanted to do right by him. And then one lie leads to another. And one intimidation technique, which is what they used, that was part of the fixing. I mean, the stuff that Michael Cohen said to people, I can't even repeat. And it was all of that, and it was woven around legal threats, right? He's a lawyer. I'm going to sue you I'm going to sue your parents. I'm going to sue your kids. You're never going to have another day where you're not going to need to borrow money from somebody. I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to, but imagine that just laced with every invective imaginable and venomous curse word you could kind of throw. Anyway, my point is simply that he was willing to do that work for Trump because he was so taken by the man, even though he knew it was BS, it was so powerful. On some level, Trump charms these people and then intimidates these people. And it's an effective way in which he's gotten, an entire party to bow to him. The GOP, there it is, disloyal. A true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald Trump. Yeah, why didn't they call him a personal attorney instead of fixer? It was the weirdest thing that they called him fixer. But This, and we'll finish. Trump has that Hitler-esque ability to draw people into atrocities and criminality. I think it's like a cult leader. Yeah, I don't think that that's a bad point. And invective, as pointed out by Tom, is a ding word. Thank you, Tom. I've had a good time today, Kim, but I can only hypothecate. Yes, that was used by David Cay Johnston. You're right. Hypothecate is a ding word also. I've had a good time, Kim, and I can't imagine it'll be improved upon, but maybe it will be over there at that after party live. Yes, I'm kind of excited for that.
Who we have on the show tomorrow?
Who's on the show tomorrow?
John Rothman.
Yes.
Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley Jr., come on! The great actor Ed Begley, he's terrific. And he's written a book, and it's unreal. I mean, he grew up in Hollywood, the son of an Academy Award-winning actor. So he hung out with a lot of people. I'm talking Jack Nicholson to Linda Ronstadt to, it was unbelievable the crowd he hung with. So we'll do that tomorrow. Thank you for reminding me. Ed Begley tomorrow. Wow. Kim, I can't wait.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the ways you support us. Very grateful. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.